He said he loved me, that I was his everything. But love doesn't look like what I went through. Love doesn't trap you in a car, lock the doors, set it on fire, and walk away while you scream for help. That day should have been my last. I should have died. But somehow, I survived. Burned, broken, but alive. And now, I'm not just alive. I'm stronger, richer, and married to the one man he could never stand to lose. His boss. My name is Alina, and this is not just a story of revenge. It's a story of how I rebuilt myself from ashes. When I met Zane, I was just a junior assistant at a real estate firm, bright-eyed, hopeful, believing that love could heal anything. He was charming, older, confident, and he knew exactly what to say to make me feel special. Everyone warned me, "He's trouble, Alina." But I didn't listen. I was young, in love, and maybe a little naive. For the first few months, things were magical. Dinners, long drives, sweet texts. But soon, his charm faded, and control took its place. He started getting jealous if I talked to male coworkers. He didn't like me staying late, didn't like my dreams, my friends, anything that gave me a life outside of him. I thought it was just love, passion. Maybe he just cared too much. But then, the fight started. The yelling, the blaming, and when I tried to leave, that's when I saw the real him. It was my birthday. He said he had a surprise planned, told me to dress nice and meet him near the cliffs where we had our first date. I remember being so excited, thinking maybe, just maybe, things were getting better. But when I got there, everything felt wrong. It was quiet, too quiet. The area was empty, except for his car. He opened the door, smiled, and said, "Get in. I've got something special for you." The moment I sat inside, the doors locked automatically. Then he walked away. I laughed at first, thinking it was a prank. But when he poured gasoline around the car, my blood ran cold. I screamed, pounded on the glass, begged him, but he just stared at me. No emotion, no regret, just said, "If I can't have you, no one will." The flames were everywhere. I don't remember much after that, only the burning pain, the darkness, and then waking up in a hospital 3 weeks later, wrapped in bandages, unable to move, unable to cry. The doctors called it a miracle. They said people don't survive what I went through. But I did. Barely. I had burns on 60% of my body. My face was scarred. My body weak. But inside, something had changed. Zane disappeared after the attack. No one could find him. Police said he likely fled the country. I spent the next year in hospitals, surgeries, and therapy. Not just for my body, but for my soul. There were days I wanted to give up, days I couldn't recognize myself in the mirror. But then I remembered his face, the cold smile, and I told myself, I won't let that be the end of my story. I started small, took online courses, learned business, finance, marketing, started networking, slowly building confidence again. I wore long sleeves, hid my scars, but never my ambition. Pain taught me to fight, to focus, and eventually, I landed a position at one of the top real estate firms in the city, Ironclad Holdings. The CEO, Mr. Adil Rayyan, was known for being ruthless, but fair. He saw something in me no one else did, potential. Within a year, I climbed the ranks, promotions, bonuses, projects. My past was behind me, or so I thought. One night at a company gala, as I stood next to Adil, sipping on a drink and smiling politely at clients, I saw him. Zane. He wasn't in rags or running from police. He was in a tuxedo, smiling, shaking hands, and walking toward Us like nothing ever happened. Like he hadn't tried to kill me. My legs went numb. My heart raced. But I didn't flinch. He stopped a few feet away, eyes locked on me, stunned. His mouth opened, but no words came out. I could see the confusion, the fear, and the realization all flash through his face. And then, Adil placed his hand gently on my back and said, "Zain, meet my fiancée, Alina." Zain's expression shattered. He had no idea I didn't just survive. I had come back with everything he tried to destroy. And now, he was the employee. I was the boss's wife. But that wasn't even the best part, because the real game had just begun. And trust me, I haven't even started playing yet. Zain's face that night, frozen, pale, utterly speechless, was a moment I had dreamt about during those long nights in the hospital, when the pain wouldn't let me sleep. And now, here it was, real. He stood just a few feet away from me, trapped in his own nightmare, while I smiled politely, like the past had never happened. But I hadn't forgotten. Not the smell of gasoline, not the way he looked at me before walking away, and certainly not the way I had to rebuild every piece of my life from nothing. Over the next few days, the tension grew. At the office, Zain avoided me like a ghost, and I let him. I wanted him to wonder, to guess how much I remembered, how much I had told Adil, because the truth was, I hadn't told him anything, not yet. Adil loved me. I knew that. He had seen me for my mind, my strength, not just my face. He was kind, protective, powerful, and most importantly, he trusted me completely. But what he didn't know was that one of his top managers, Zain Malik, was the man who had once left me to die. Zain started playing it safe, showing up early, keeping his head down, acting like a model employee. But I could see the panic in his eyes whenever we crossed paths. And then one day, I found a note on my desk. No name, no handwriting. Just 5 words scribbled on a torn envelope. We both know the truth. I didn't panic. I didn't show fear. I just folded it up and tucked it into my purse like it meant nothing. But inside, I knew the game had officially begun. I started digging into Zain's past again, where he had gone after the fire, how he had disappeared. With the help of a private investigator, I learned he had used a fake identity to escape charges, changed cities, started a new life, clean record, new job, until somehow he found his way into Ironclad Holdings, using a different name on his resume, Zain Qureshi, instead of Zain Malik. No one had connected the dots, but I had proof now. I wasn't planning to go straight to the police, not yet. I wanted to expose him in a way that would ruin him completely. Not just his job, but his image, his pride, his ability to ever hurt another woman again. Meanwhile, things between me and Adil were getting stronger. He had planned a small wedding, private, away from all the media attention. He often told me, "You're the strongest woman I've ever met, Alina. I don't care about your scars. They're proof you survived." But I hadn't told him the full story. I was scared it might ruin everything. What if he didn't believe me? What if he thought I was just stirring up drama before the wedding? What if Zain had already gotten to him? Then came the twist I didn't expect. One afternoon, Adil walked into my office, looking tense. He dropped a folder on my desk and said, "I need to show you something." Inside was a copy of Zain's original identity records and a police report. Burned vehicle, missing person, my name, my photo. It was the case file of the night I was attacked. Adil looked me in the eyes and said, "You never told me he was the one who did this to you." My heart stopped. "How did you?" He sighed. "You think I wouldn't check out every person?" around you after you agreed to marry me. I knew something was off the first time I saw him look at you. Tears welled up in my eyes. Not because I was scared, but because for the first time, I felt truly safe. He leaned forward and whispered, "You're not alone in this, not anymore." And that's when we made the plan. We decided to give Zane exactly what he feared the most. Exposure. Adil arranged a corporate event, inviting media, investors, board members, everyone who mattered in our industry. And I was the guest speaker. The topic, rebuilding from ashes, the story behind Ironclad's newest partner. I stood on stage, the lights warm on my skin, the crowd quiet. I shared my journey, not naming names, but telling the truth about the betrayal, the fire, the survival, and how I turned pain into power. Zane stood in the back, pale, sweating, unable to leave. And then, the moment came. Adil stepped onto the stage and smiled. "And now, let's welcome a man who has some explaining to do." Gasps filled the room. Zane froze. Cameras turned toward him. Security closed in. But before they reached him, he did something no one expected. He ran out the door, into the parking lot, disappearing once again. But this time, I had left no room for escape, because the final piece of the puzzle, the call to the police, the proof, the confession he once sent in a drunken voice note, I had it all. And by the time the night ended, so did his second life. The climax wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about freedom. But just when I thought the storm had passed, another twist hit me harder than I could have imagined. And that is where everything changed again. Just when I thought everything was finally over, that justice had been served, and I could breathe again, I got a call that changed everything. It was Adil's secretary. She said something had come in the mail for me. No sender, no return address, just my name, carefully written in that same familiar handwriting I had hoped to never see again. It was a flash drive. I rushed home, plugged it into my laptop, and for a few seconds, nothing happened. Then a video started playing. It was Zane, sitting in what looked like a dingy motel room. Eyes tired, face bruised. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. "If you're watching this," he began, "you probably think you've won. And maybe you have. But there's something you never knew." My stomach dropped. My hands were shaking. He continued, "I wasn't trying to kill you that night." I froze. "I just wanted to scare you, make you stay, make you see how much I needed you. But when the fire started, I panicked. I swear I didn't plan it. To go that far, there it was, the truth. Or at least his version of it. A broken confession, masked in excuses." He went on, talking about how he'd lost everything. How no matter where he ran, he couldn't escape what he did to me. And then, the final words, "Maybe you'll never forgive me. Maybe you shouldn't. But I wanted you to know." I think about that night every single day. The screen went black. I sat there in silence, not sure what I was supposed to feel. Anger, pity, relief. But I realized something important in that moment. His guilt, his regret. None of it mattered anymore because I had already forgiven myself. And that was the only forgiveness I ever really needed. The video wasn't a twist to hurt me again. It was a reminder of how far I'd come. From a girl who once begged for love, to a woman who built her own life, her own future, on her terms. Few weeks later, I married Adil. Not because it was part of some revenge plan, but because he stood by me when he didn't have to. He saw past everything, my scars, my past, and chose to love the woman I had become, not the one I used to be. The company flourished. I launched a foundation for burn survivors and abuse victims. We named it Phoenix Rise, because like a phoenix, I didn't just rise from the ashes. I became something stronger, something brighter. Zane was eventually caught and faced trial. The evidence was solid. There was no escape this time. And though I chose not to attend the hearings, I received updates. He got years in prison. But that wasn't my victory. My victory was waking up every morning without fear, looking in the mirror and seeing strength where once there was shame. Walking into boardrooms, raising my voice, not because I had something to prove, but because I knew who I was. This wasn't just a story about betrayal or revenge. It was about survival, healing, power. Sometimes the people who hurt us the most think they've written our ending, but the truth is, we get to choose how our story continues. And mine, it's only just begun.